All right. I believe we are live. So welcome, Rebecca, or Becca, as
Hi.
you should
I
like to go by
know. I
these
think this
days.
is my first
Yeah.
time on YouTube. I'm scared.
But no, you've
I'm
been on
nervous.
YouTube. I've seen your YouTube videos of being
You've seen
interviewed
me on
by other
YouTube?
people.
Where?
I know, right? I was like, what's I'm on YouTube?
I'm
How come
sure
I
that
didn't
some
know?
things have been
No,
like repurposed.
yeah,
We don't
no,
have a
you're
YouTube
yeah,
channel for
yeah,
our
but
business. So.
you've been interviewed several times on YouTube. So
Right.
folks, if
I
you like
guess
this interview, you can go look up Rebecca Tracy on
that
YouTube
makes
and you'll
sense.
find her other
I don't
interviews.
think I've been live on YouTube. Let me
Live
say
on
that.
YouTube is definitely, yeah, it's just the same as being on YouTube, except we're not editing this thing. So
Right.
it's gonna be
Okay,
really
great.
authentic.
Great.
So, all right, we have kind of known about each other for years. I think mainly because of Tad Hargrave,
Yeah.
Marketing for Hippies. You guys don't know, it's great guy and great teachings and things. And how did you like you've collaborated with Tad over the years, like a couple times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I kind of like colleagues from that place. And I've always thought, wow, you look like you have a pretty great business and you have a Facebook group of 15,000 people and your team is very active and kind of caring for the members, and you have a coaching program, a year-long coaching program that's very active as well, and a couple hundred people in there. And I was just part of your series. And by the way, folks, we're gonna talk about in this video, in this interview, we're gonna be talking about how do we grow a business, particularly in the beginning, because there's a lot of people who are watching this who are um, either in the beginning, like as a life coach or a nutritionist or a holistic healer, but haven't gotten traction yet, or maybe it's been a year or two or even longer, and you're still looking for the best ways to get traction in a way that feels authentic or feels good to you. So we are going to be touching on the topic of how do we do that without relying on social media. And because Rebecca just hosted a whole series of it was like a dozen, no, like 15 or something people, right?
Yeah, I think
Experts
15.
who all contributed to this topic of how might we do this without social media. I have to say I was the lone, rebel saying, well, I'm going to talk about social media anyway. Actually, a few others did
A
as
few
well.
others did.
I actually listened to, I think, all of them actually.
Oh, cool. Did you learn anything
So
new?
I did. I mean, it was amazing how there were a couple of common strategies that people were
For
talking
sure.
about, like going to live events, meeting people, and reaching out to your existing people and how people heard about you,
Yeah.
and having a good offer and things like that. But everybody talked about it in such interesting ways.
Yeah.
And so right now, as of this recording, the series is not available at this time, but Becca, you're going to relaunch it, in the summer of 24.
Yeah, it was such great content. We did it kind of as a time
Yeah.
limited thing, and now we're like, well, shoot, we have all this amazing content that we should
Yes.
reuse. So we are going to do an encore presentation of it, not till August. So it's very far
Yes.
away. Everyone who's watching this will forget about it by then, but
Well,
maybe they'll be
you
pleasantly
can,
surprised when they see us promoting it.
yeah, and Becca, you already have an evergreen free training on how to do business without how to grow your business without social media. So
Yes,
I
it
will be
definitely did
sure
not have as
to.
many strategies as was in the series
Yeah,
because it's
but
just me.
still,
But
it's
yeah,
it's what worked for you and what you recommend to your people. So I will
yeah.
be linking that below. So those of you watching this on YouTube Live, sorry, you got to wait until after I finish this, but you can actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pull this up because I have your website up here, and I just want to make
Oh,
sure that it's already people can already go there if they want to. There it is. Yay.
there
And
it is.
then
Oh, this
yeah,
is fun.
yeah, and
You gonna
then
do
you
a
can
website review for me?
yeah, oh, well, maybe no. I'll roast it right now. No, well, let's go
Yeah.
to the
Can
free.
you imagine? You
Yeah.
start tearing it apart.
Yeah. It's like you weren't expecting that. So, and then here it is, how to build your business without social media, free training, and there it is. So,
There it
folks,
is.
check it out. The uncagedlife.com/no-social. And I'm sure it's good stuff. I haven't watched it yet, but
You don't need to
ha
watch it. You know the
hearing,
strategies already.
well, hearing how you interviewed the others in the series, I know you know your stuff, and the series itself. Let me just take a minute to talk about this. Like,
Yeah.
it was the most interesting collaboration I've been part of as long as I remember. And I've been here
Oh,
since
fun.
2009. Yeah,
Whoa, that's
because it's so because usually when you do a summit, right? And for those of you watching this, if you're thinking of doing collaborations with colleagues, and like the traditional way is either to start a podcast and do interviews like this, maybe
mhm.
YouTube Live or whatever, Facebook Live, Instagram Live. The difference, and or like create a whole summit where it's like really intense and you have to like so much organizing. And the difference with how Becca did it was we did it over voice messaging back and forth.
Right. And you didn't use the Voxer app before this,
I never used the
correct?
app
Okay.
before.
Most other people had. I think it was you and someone else who were like, I've
Okay.
never used this before, but
Yeah, because if I were to do it, I'd probably do it on either Facebook messaging or
right.
like WhatsApp or something like that. But it doesn't matter because it worked out well. And what was special about this is when you're in a live interview like this, you have to respond in real time, kind of just off the cuff, right? Like just shoot from the hip. What other analogies can I use? No. So you just have to like say what's intuitively coming to you. Whereas with the messages we were passing back and forth, you were willing to wait an hour or a day
Yeah, it was
before
a
I
few
got
days
back
in
to you.
between some of them. I had to go back and listen. I was like, shit, what did they
Yeah,
say again?
exactly.
And
Yeah. So it was great because we were able, I was like, these are the smartest people I've ever met. Like, how come these interviews are so smart? I'm like, oh, that's right. They had time to think.
right.
In most
Yeah.
interviews, we don't have time to think. And this is, I mean, I don't do, were you planning on this being one of the major factors of why this is different? Or it just kind of happened that way?
It was more that I really like the Voxer. So the app that we use is called Voxer. It's a voice message app. It's similar to WhatsApp, but you don't need somebody's phone number to add them and you can listen
Right.
in real time. So like if you were leaving me a message now, I could be listening to it as you're doing it. So it's kind of like an easy way to have conversations when you don't want to get on like a call like this. And so I use it
Yes.
all the time in my business with other business colleagues and friends.
Yes.
And it's just kind of the way that we catch up and keep in touch with each other. And I like it because it's something you can do. Like I'll often be walking my dog and I'll be messaging someone being like, "Hey,
Yeah.
about that strategy we were talking about, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Wow, I
Right.
do this all the time." And it is where like so many good ideas come from. And it's so different than if I would never get on a Zoom call with any of the people that I talk to normally on Voxer. Like we would do an interview, but we wouldn't have these kind of like casual conversations like we do in the
Right.
app. And I was like,
Yes.
that's interesting. And there's something about it. And I like
Yes.
that you don't have to get on video. And I like
Yeah.
that we're not setting what I liked about it was that when we were inviting our collaborators, like you and everybody else, we didn't have to be like, okay, so we're going to schedule an interview, we're going to do the whole thing. It was like, it's going to happen over the course of these like 1 or 2 weeks, and that's pretty flexible. And you can answer whenever you want. If you're walking your dog, doing dishes, sitting at your desk, like I don't care when you send your answer. It's irrelevant. And so it felt like there was just more flexibility and easier for people to be like, yeah, I can do that. I don't have to get ready, don't have to look video ready, don't have to be
Yeah.
sitting at my desk at a certain
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here on video, like Becca, you had to, put on makeup and get a new house to be right. No, I'm kidding.
I
No,
was
you were
saying I put on
talking
the Zoom filter today, but
to
yes.
feel it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it
it's just
was,
it's different.
yeah, it was different. And I loved how one of them, I'm now forgetting the name, like she was just waking up and she was like, oh, like
I know. And it
it
is,
felt so real. It felt so real.
people are
And
like,
then
they're like doing, you can hear things in the
yeah,
background.
and
They're
like
like doing dishes. We
your
tried to
dog
keep
was
the
like
audio.
shaking in the ears, where you could hear the dogs, shaking around or
Yeah, that was
whatever.
me and my dog shaking,
That,
my dog shaking in the background. Yeah, and
yeah, it
like
was cool.
it turned out really well. And
Yeah.
I don't remember if I told you this. I did tell a lot of the people I was participating. We might have actually been finished our conversation, but in the middle of all of this, I was going through a pretty
Wow.
bad
Yeah. It's
personal
yeah. Yeah. Well,
thing, a
I
pregnancy
heard hints of
loss.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, literally
Yeah.
in the middle of the interviews. And so it was like,
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, I have to. So, thank God I didn't
Yeah.
have a bunch of Zoom calls
Right.
scheduled because I could give myself, and I let people know we're going to be delayed. And I gave myself a couple days and I was like, I just need some time before you'll hear a response from this.
Yes.
And it still worked. Like the interviews, I don't know, probably didn't sound quite as cheery in the second half of the
No.
interviews, but I do
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
another reason why I love things that are not done with these scheduled time
With these
slots because it
scheduled
really
times.
does
Yeah.
allow you to have the flexibility of like all the things that are going to happen in your life.
Yes. Yes. And you put it into a private podcast feed. And one of the people you interviewed was the founder of the private podcast feed software called
Yeah, yeah, Lindsay, Hello Audio.
HelloAudio.fm. Yeah, and so it was interesting. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because anyone who's thinking of collaboration and doesn't want to do a lot of video and likes the flexibility of what we just talked about, again, you're just recording messages back and forth with your colleagues. And the nice thing, like I said, is that it gave me time to think. It gave me time to like, okay, what would be a better response? And sometimes I waited a day before I said something so that it would be a better contribution than if I just off the cuff immediately said something. So
Yeah. I will
that
say that
was,
as a strategy, I mean, I didn't do the tech stuff because I have a wonderful team that does that,
yes,
but it is more to implement because you have to
yes,
download every
right.
conversation individually. So we had to like
Stitch
figure
it
out how to
together.
get Ginger into those conversations and then
Yes,
stitch them all together and then actually
right.
get them into the private podcast. So there are a couple little tech things that we had never done before because it
Yeah,
was new to us.
it's
But
it's not a big deal, and I think a lot of people again who are just starting out have more time than money.
right,
So
yes,
it's
they
it's
got
like
time to figure it out.
it's not a big deal to just download these audios and then just use any kind of basic audio editing tool. These days, you go online, there's a bunch of free audio editing online. I'm
Yeah.
sure you can just piece
I
it
don't know how
together
to do any
pretty
of that
easily.
these days,
Yeah, but these
but
days it's easy.
yeah, I love Hello Audio. I would definitely put in a plug for Hello Audio because it's been such a cool tool. We use it for our blog. So basically, anytime I write new content on blog or
Cool.
newsletter, I read it on Hello and put it onto
Oh,
a podcast on Hello Audio. So if people are like, I hate reading blogs, but I can easily listen to these 10-minute episodes,
yeah,
it's kind of another way to get content in front of
great.
people. We've used it for freebies. Yeah, there's all kinds of
Yes.
cool ways that you can use it.
That's really great. Okay, I want to, as promised, talk about marketing without social media, particularly for those who don't have like, a large audience yet. They can just email their list of 5,000 and then get a bunch of
Right.
clients or whatever. But they're starting out. Obviously, they have some, friends, colleagues who might be willing to help them out. But what is and I know you have a whole free training on this, so maybe kind of give me just a very brief outline anyway of
Yeah.
what the strategy is, and we'll have a conversation around that.
Yeah. So a lot of the strategy is it's funny because in the free training, we're like, bear with us because we'll get to the strategies, but there's like this preliminary stuff that we need to talk about first. And that is all a lot of like, that's what my program focuses on. So obviously, we're going to talk about that. But that is really, I think it's a strategy on its own, but all of that is like clarity and specificity and clarity of the niche, ability to talk about what you do, specificity in what you do, ability for other people to just easily understand it, not covering it with kind of language and jargon, right? So a lot of it is that those like foundational bits that I could give you the best marketing strategy in the world. And if you can't articulate who you help, the strategy means nothing, right? So I feel like if you're going to watch the training, know that we're going to talk about those things first because those things need to be in place. And I'll sometimes have people come to me and they're like, okay, yeah. Like I have all that. I just want to know the strategy, like YouTube, this or that. And I'm like, okay, well, I look at their website and I'm like, I don't even know what you do. Like the strategies are not going to help you. And so we have to get these things nailed down. And that alone is a strategy because every single thing you do, everyone you talk to, every piece of content you put out, don't care where it is now going to start to work better for you. So I feel like it's hard to talk about the like, go post 5 times on YouTube and go do whatever
Yeah.
without having that base.
Yeah, it's a good point because it's a very good point because it's true. A lot of times, beginners, people who are not super marketing savvy think that just like you said, oh, if you just use YouTube or if you just use Instagram, like suddenly all the clients are going to start happening because you just need to post, some people tell me, George, just tell us like Tuesday at 11 a.m. you should post here. And on Thursday at 4
Which
p.m. you should post
hashtags?
here. If you just do that, then you'll be fine. You'll be checking all the boxes and somehow clients will show up.
Yeah.
And you're right. If it's like I always tell people like money comes from your income comes from other people deciding to spend money. And so they have to decide to spend money with you. And if they don't want what you have or they don't understand what you have, well, then it doesn't matter how much you post. You
Yeah.
post 5 times a day and have a 10,000 person audience. And I've seen that. I've seen
I've
social
seen it
media
too.
accounts with tons of thousands, tens of thousands of followers and having conversations with them privately. I'm like, wow, you really are struggling, aren't you? So, and then on the other hand, I've also known people who have no social media presence whatsoever, but they're kind of like a best kept secret because what they do is super helpful for people, and people know exactly how to refer people to
Referral
them. So,
based. Yeah.
it's not enough, right? Is it not enough to say, I'm a life coach and I can help you with anything? Because my life coaching allows me to.
Fortunately, yeah. And I think I've had that too, where I've had people come to me and they're like, I am like, took a course on social media. I even hired it out. I hired an agency and they're doing all this work. And I look at their social and it looks great. I'm like, oh, this is really pretty. And I start poking through, but I'm like, you're not saying anything. Like, there's nothing in here. You're not, first of all, you're never selling. There's nothing in here that's telling me that you have a service available. And it's a lot of like quotes and memes and images and like nice ideas, but like, it's not something that's going to make me click over and be like, holy shit, I need to pay you money right now for this. And so it's too bad because I feel like people who do that, like people are trying hard, right? New business owners, no one is sitting, most new business owners aren't sitting around being like, well, I hope the clients just come in. Like they're really trying to implement these strategies, at least the people when they get to me and probably when they get to you. And so it's sad to see that it's not working. And so I'm such like, I just feel like I'm constantly beating the drum of this message of like it just has to be niched in and it has to be clear and it's not something to be taken personally if people don't like what you're selling. It doesn't mean that you're not good at what you do and you're never going
No,
to have
yeah,
clients. It just means you're not articulating it well or you haven't
right.
identified exactly what the thing is that they want to pay for, and
It's
that's where
like
the work
there
is.
are so many problems in the world, that people have, so much pain that people are going through, so much healing that they want to do, actually, and things that they want to achieve, that there's more than enough clients out there for everyone
Really.
if we could only just offer them what they want. So one of the points I've been making, I like being a rebel, as you as you know,
I know,
and
I've
I'm
learned.
curious what you think about this, and or whether we can agree to disagree. But I tell people, listen, if you're having a really hard time, like taking all of your multi-talented, multi-passionate stuff into one niche for your entire professional identity, I say, hey, listen, maybe you can let go of niching yourself, but you do need to niche your offers.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree with that. I think what I've seen though is then people are like, okay, well, and they create like a bunch of different offers that are totally unrelated, but then try to sell them from kind of one home base. And I'm like, it's fine. I think I agree. I totally think you can have a niched in offer that's super narrow. I think everyone should have that. And you spend the time marketing it and you sell it out. And then it would almost be like you're moving on to then switching all of your marketing, all your messaging to like this different offer, which is fine if so, it's just a lot of work. If some people want to do that though, I totally think it's fine to play around with different offers, but not at the same time. Like you can't be selling five
yeah,
different offers in
yeah,
different niches in an effective way at the same time, unless you have a
yeah.
lot of time on your hands. But even then, I don't think it works.
Right. I think that's reasonable. It's the whole thing of, you chase two rabbits, you catch neither one.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it
Yeah.
is it is sort of like if there's a momentum being built with your audience, your network, remembering you for this, and then you switching gears and offering this other thing, it's possible it's just gonna take them, adjusting their
Like, and then you have
mind
to
and
build
say,
up
okay,
again for the new
yeah,
thing, which is fine
yeah,
if you want to do that. And every time you do it, you learn how to do it better,
right.
right? So it is
Yes.
like if you're really great at marketing, you can actually do that more effectively. The problem is it takes people some time to get to get really great at marketing enough to be able to do that.
Yeah. So then this clarifying of the offer into something that people actually want to buy is one of those, maybe one of the foundations or the main thing that your coaching program helps with, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Okay.
a lot of my students will come in and have kind of even if they have a niche, they'll be like, my niche is, like life transitions and
Yeah.
grief,
Oh my gosh, I
grief
hear that a
meaning
lot.
like the loss of a job or the
Yeah.
getting divorced or loss of or moving cultures or death. And I'm like, right. So they have what they feel is sort of like a theme, or they think it's a niche. It's really more of kind of a broad theme. And we just like work to get it to something so specific because I'd much rather somebody niche and offer and sell that out than stress about finding like the perfect niche for their whole entire business forever because
Yes.
too
Now,
much.
okay,
Yeah.
what would you say to somebody who says, "Oh, I don't like," I don't know how I would say this. Like, it's almost like they're saying, "I don't like being concrete about it because the work I do is so much deeper." I don't know if you've heard that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot to say to them. I mean, I will usually, I understand because I have been there. Most of the people we've worked with, have been there. And I think what I will usually articulate all the reasons to go more narrow and remind them that, like, when you get in the door, when you get a client in, even in this narrow niche, they are still a client sitting in front of you with all of their problems. And so, like, you still get to do the deep work. I'd argue you get to actually do deeper work when you're niched in because you can really get into it. Whereas if you're working with 10 different people with 10 different, completely different problems and different niches, then you never really get to develop your skills around like that particular niche. So I do think you get deeper with your coaching and your skills when you niche in. And then I let people kind of choose. I'm like, great. Like if you, definitely have had students who are like, nope, I don't want to do it. I'm just going to stay out here and stay kind of broad. I'm like, great, go on to our next module, go on to the next steps, see how it goes. Like, I'm not here to tell you it's not going to work. Like, maybe it'll work. And so we go on, they test it out. They almost inevitably come back and are like, okay, it's too hard. Or like, I'm finding everyone kind of wants this one thing. And so then it's like, okay, so maybe we like nudge a little bit more that way. So I think sometimes you do just have to experience it. Like any coach could tell you to niche. And if you're just resisting it, you're not going to do it. So I do like to allow people to kind of find it on their own through taking the next steps,
Yeah.
versus, trying to force them into something that's just not going to feel good from the beginning. It usually
Yes.
feels good by the end when they start to see, they're like, okay, I'm just going to try this one narrow area. And then clients come in and they start getting paid and they start being like,
Yes.
whoa, this work is like, I'm actually getting to do the work.
Right.
They usually are like, okay, this is good. This is a good decision. But
Yes. Yes.
sometimes it just takes time to get there, which I totally respect.
Yeah, and clients who come for this one thing, one specific thing, like you said, once they like your energy signature, I call it, I mean, they're much more willing to, it feels natural to talk about other things and you could start
Yeah.
presenting other possibilities to them. But I'm actually glad we focused on this because marketing on social media, like, well, there's a whole free training that you offer, which we will link to. And but this thing is so key that if you don't get the offer right, I mean, if you do get the offer right, let's say, it's not like it sells itself because you do have to still tell people about it, but it's
Yeah.
like the telling people about it, it's not rocket science. Like you could literally write a list of 20 supporters in your life, friends, colleagues, fellow classmates or whatever, and then get their opinion about it, get their feedback. But it's like if people light up and go, oh my gosh, I can think of, oh, well, this is very clear. Oh, I can think of this, or it's very, I can definitely imagine thinking of people that to refer to you.
Yeah.
That's such good news. And then
Yeah.
the marketing part of it becomes much easier
Yeah.
and it becomes like a mission, I think, because once you start helping people and you're like, oh man, I'm really good at this. Like people need my help. And then it's like,
Yeah.
of course, I
Well,
want to
and
let people know.
I feel like when you stay broad and you're kind of like still trying to even articulate what you do and you can't even get anyone in the door because no one really quite understands it, it's like you're not even getting to do the work that you set out to do. It's like you're just stuck in this like marketing shitstorm where you can't get anything but right. Like you niche in and you get clients in it. It's like, oh, okay, I was so resistant to niching, but niching is what's actually allowing me to work with people. And like, do I want to focus on like marketing being so hard because it doesn't make any sense? Or do I want to actually work with people? And I think once people get in and they're actually doing the work, it's almost like they laugh at how hard niching was for them because they start to see it's not that big a deal. It actually allows you to do what you want to do. And there's still wiggle room within the niche and there's room to go deeper and there's still room to pivot as you go. It's just so much easier to get started.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's nice that you have a coaching program focused on that because you've got a couple hundred, people in there that there's this kind of momentum that's built and members probably feel safer and more supported to actually take these steps, which is great. So I'm really glad you're offering it. I'll be sure to link that below as well. And my goodness, the time is already flying by. So is there anything else you loved saying to those folks who are, in the beginning-ish stages of growing their business?
Oh my gosh.
There's so much.
I think a big piece of it, especially like with the conversation around niching, is like being willing to let go of what you thought it was going to be. Because I find a lot of people come, and I did this too, where I was like, I had this concept or this idea, and I was like, I'm going to start a business around it. And once you get into it, it's like you start to realize like this is my idea, but your business is actually about other people. Your business is actually more about other people than it is about you. And so being willing to like take the feedback and do the market research and take what they are telling you and shift your idea. Because I find it's people who are so rigid with like, no, it's going to be this thing and are not willing to change it that just end up spinning in circles. And so I just think you have to have that flexibility where it's like, it's your idea and it's the market. And then like, how do we mesh those things together? I think that's the
Yes,
thing that I see my students coming into my program will often ask me like, what's the difference between people who are successful in the program and people who aren't? And one of my first answers is like, you have to be willing to just move with what you're seeing and not get so hung up on the thing that you came in with.
I love that. Yeah, this is I think the danger of, well, ironically, people they might even come in thinking they've niched
Yes.
themselves, right? Like they might even done the work with other programs or other
Yep.
coaches or whatever. And so they get, I call it like they get so ossified into one identity, and it's painful to let that this is me go. And
Yeah.
this is why I soften the message by saying you don't have to niche yourself, but do niche your offer. And you
Yeah.
can have
Yeah. I
a
like that.
thousand offers in your lifetime, 100 offers in your lifetime at the very least. I certainly have. But if you want to make money sooner rather than later, or yeah, or like you said, business is more about other people. If you want to be about yourself, then it's a hobby, which is fine. You could keep it a hobby and do it for friends, do it for
Yeah. And
yourself.
I've said, I've said that cold hard fact to people too, where I'm like, do you want to make money? And of course, we're not just saying, do you want to make money at any cost and throw out all your ethics and all the things, but like, do you want to make money or do you want to have an idea that you're kind of just going to try to play with? Because the way to make money is to go in this direction, or the way to make money faster. And I think that's really important when you're new, because the thing that makes people burn out is going for so long and not seeing any traction. And so I want to prevent people from doing that. And it's like, just get some money coming in from one niched offer, and then you can totally change your mind. I don't care. But like you need to see that positive feedback and that positive return, literally like in your bank account, to have the motivation to keep going. So like let's get that happening. And then we can talk about like the thing over here and all the other ideas.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's fine to have kind of two tracks in your efforts. One is, all right, this is going to create a livelihood sooner because I'm really solving people's, painful problems or their most intriguing goals that they're willing to pay for. And then on this side, parallel, I'm doing my hobby, and this might turn into a long-term audience who's going to buy anything I want to sell, that I
Yeah.
feel like selling. But that is a long-term pathway. But yeah, I'm grateful that we are talking about this because that really is like 80% of the way there, whereas the marketing, social media part of it is way smaller
Honestly, to
than
me, I'm like,
people
that's so
think.
easy. Here's 12 ways you can go market your business. Like any of them are fine. They can
Yeah,
all work. Play around, see which one you like best. But like when the messaging is solid and the niche is there and there's like a compelling offer, it's any of them. I don't care which one you do. Like I'm
yeah,
not,
yeah.
I feel like I'm like marketing model agnostic. I'm like, go on YouTube,
Yes,
go on social, don't go on
sure,
social, network. Like it
sure.
doesn't actually matter. All of them
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, yeah. This is great. Thank you so much. And by the way, the Facebook group that you manage, your team manages, 15,000 people, is also a good place to go do market research for some
Yes,
people.
yeah. We
Yeah.
have it sort of turned into like a market research hub, which I'm okay with because I'm like,
Yes.
people are like, where do I ask people? And I'm like, go into the
Yes.
group. There's 15,000 people. It doesn't matter if
Yes.
they're in your niche, they're going to know someone who's in your niche.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so it's definitely great for that.
And a great place to potentially find collaborations as well, because a lot of people in there are growing and they're learning a lot of this stuff. So I'll be sure to link that below as well. But you can also find it on Facebook. It's Uncaged Business
Uncaged
Facebook group.
Lifers is the free.
Uncaged Lifers, Lifers. So okay, well I'll link those things
Yeah,
below.
great.
Yeah, Becca, thank you so much for showing
Yeah,
up
thanks. It
and
was
sharing
nice
with
chatting
us.
with you face to face.
Yeah, for sure. It was great.